That was amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The Spirit is in the house for sure now. Thank you, Children's Choir and Jenny Crane. Buenos días y bienvenidos. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. I am the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. My pronouns are she or ella. Today is a special service where we honor one of the sources of our shared faith. And you may notice that you have hymnals today. Can I get a woohoo? Yeah. There's lots of changes happening at Cedar Lane as we continue our rollout of being in person. There is no longer registration for in-person services right now. Get another woohoo for that. We will invite you to engage in hymns today. Please wear your masks, singing lightly, humming, or singing only in your heart as you feel called and comfortable. For now, though, I'd like you to open your hymnals. And if you open them to hymn number 1, which is May Nothing Evil Cross This Door, turn back a page. And then look, and you'll see to the left, it says, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote." I'd like us to read together from that page the line that begins, "The living tradition we share draws from many sources." The first, direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religion, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science, and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Today's members of the Cedar Lane Pagan Group will secure our space with shared pieces of the ritual of Samhain. Samhain is the 8th solar holiday in the pagan wheel of the year. It is also sometimes called the third or final harvest, and it is a time in the pagan tradition when the veil between this world is recognized as the thinnest. I hope that you will attend one of the many pagan rituals that this group leads throughout the year, and that it helps you to find a deeper understanding of peace and spiritual exploration. We also want to acknowledge that there are among us many who are celebrating Dia de los Muertos, and those who celebrate All Souls Day at this time of year, and of course, Halloween. These rituals of remembrance are central to our experience of living, dying, grieving, and making meaning. Please know that whatever your beliefs, gender identity and expression, sexuality, immigration status, or disability, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here at Cedar Lane, where together we gather to explore the eternal, nurture community, and build a more just world. May you find comfort in today's service.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Dana Edwards, and my pronouns are she and her. If you are new or you feel new, you are invited to complete the newcomer form that will be linked in the chat if you're online, or to raise your hand if you're here in person. And if you've been attending for a while and are interested in becoming a member of this religious community, please reach out to Reverend Katie or Nicole, who is dressed as a unicorn, in the back.
We recognize that today's service may bring up feelings and memories of those we have loved and lost. Know that this is a loving space to hold your feelings of anger, sadness, joy, laughter, tears, or something else. Our pastoral visitors, who are an extension of the ministry team, are here to support you. Kathleen Holmay is here. And if you're joining us online, you can call the pastoral care line at 301-493-8300, extension 208. If you leave a message, the on-call pastoral visitor will return your call as soon as possible.
We have a few announcements today. First of all, someone's having a birthday on this very auspicious day. Kathleen Reedy is turning 86 today. Michael Thorne and Patricia Phillips are happy to announce the wedding of their daughter, Laura Phillips Thorne, to Colenso Spear on Saturday, October 30th in Tucson, Arizona. And the ceremony was officiated by UU minister Reverend Claire Feingold Thorne, the bride's sister.
Friday night is food and movie night here at Cedar Lane. Please sign up online by Tuesday. The food is going to be catered by Bethesda Curry Kitchen. We eat their food all the time at staff meetings, and it is delicious. So I hope you will come and bring a blanket and get ready to have a picnic or sit at one of the tables that'll be out. It'll be a wonderful time of food and community. Speaking of food and community, it is Halloween today, and there is a trunk or treat happening right after service in the Culver lot. And I also think there might just be a special announcement from the Dare to Dream team today as well. So I hope you will join us for the celebration.
And next Sunday at 11 a.m., we invite you to join us in person or online for a special Diwali, the Hindu Festival of Lights, a celebration here at Cedar Lane. There's no pre-registration required. The service will feature Indian classical dance, musical guests, Tumba, and a reflection by social justice activist and musician T.M. Krishna. Special Indian refreshments will be served after the service. And also, our 9 o'clock family chapel will also feature a child and youth-friendly Diwali celebration complete with sparklers. So please do join us.
Sparklers?
Sparklers.
I am so in for sparklers. Be sure to register for Spirit Journey, Designing Your Own Spiritual Practice, which will be led by the Reverend Louise Green. It is a Zoom class that happens November 10th and 17th from 7 to 8:30. You can register online. Check the e-news for details.
Congressman Jamie Raskin will be joining us. We'll be back at Cedar Lane, and this time as our Kiplinger lecturer on November 13th at 7 p.m. In-person registration is available for Cedar Lane members and friends, and we hope that you will register today.
As we enter this time of reflection and remembrance, connection and community, we acknowledge that we gather on the traditional lands of the Nacotchtank people from which the name Anacostia is derived. They were a part of the Piscataway group of tribes, and we honor that the indigenous people of this land were here before us, are here with us now, and will continue to be with us in the future. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who've protected it throughout the generations.
We remember those who were enslaved and worked this land without choice or reward. We remember all who have gone before, whose vision and labor helped create and sustain this religious community. In this spirit we gather, in this spirit we begin, in this spirit we worship. Let us greet and welcome each other.
Beloved Cedar Lane community, it warms my heart, and especially the trio here and Dr. Jasmine Lee on the piano, to ask you to open to page 73 in the gray hymnal. One bit of instruction: we will be singing in reverse, meaning the fourth verse will be first, then the third, then the second, and we will end on the first verse. Please rise. Vernal clouds have turned, the star wheel summer is upon us. Vernal clouds have turned, the star wheel summer is upon us. Riding on the hearts, hovering above the hot and yellow hillside. Vernal clouds have turned, the star wheel summer is upon us. Crickets in the night, chirping in our ears the song of moonlit music. Vernal clouds have turned, the star wheel summer
is upon us. Autumn cold has turned the star blue. Winter is upon us. Autumn cold has turned the star blue. Winter is upon us. May the wintry song cold upon our cheeks. The wet wind glistens, glistens. Autumn cold has turned the star blue. Winter is upon us. Leaping in the fire, golden in the glass, the cider glows like amber. Autumn cold has turned the star blue. Winter is upon us. Summertime has turned the star blue. Autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star blue. Autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling song, sweet upon the air, the smell of blue mist rising. Summertime has turned the star blue. Autumn is upon us. Glorious as the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star blue. Autumn is upon us.
I come into the circle of air, a circle of change. Let the old be transformed, by spirit rearranged. Death, dance and play the harp, piercing silence in the dark. The woman's old with withered limbs. Death beckons her to dance with him.
I come into the circle of fire, a circle of song, as the light grows shorter and the night grows long. The moon is bright, the crone is old, the body is lifeless, the bones so cold. We all live and pay our dues to die in ones and threes and twos.
I come into the circle of water, a circle of might, to sing of my family on this holy night. All you spirits who walk the night, hearken, hearken to my call. I bid you in our circle join, enter, enter, one and all. Speak to us of things unknown, lend your energies to this rite. To speed your journey we have joined for this sacred Samhain rite.
I come into the circle of earth, the circle of peace, so wandering spirits may be released. As she accepts the dance of death, the earth is cooled by ghostly breath, to lie in dormancy once more, to have her strength and life restored.
I come into the circle of the ancients, a circle of light, and welcome familial spirits this All Souls night. O mighty Pan of the summer lands, guardian of the beloved dead, we pour forth love on those you keep safely in your peaceful stead. We bless those who have walked the path that someday we as well shall rove. We offer peace unto their souls while resting in your arms below. We are between the worlds,
beyond the bounds of time, where night and day, birth and death, joy and sorrow meet as one.
Blessed be. And we light this chalice as we recognize our Unitarian Universalist heritage. Please share where you are lighting your chalice from in the chat.
Good morning. Today is Samhain, the festival, the feast, and the ritual of Samhain. Thousands of years ago, humans had only the elements to guide and support their livelihoods: air, water, earth, and fire supported life on our planet. We still depend on these elements for our lives. These people observed how elements changed in the circle of the year and in the circle of life. The solar changes, the equinoxes and solstices, the agricultural changes, the warming of the earth, the seeding, the growth, and the harvest. We celebrate Samhain on October 31st. It is an agricultural celebration, the death of the year, when the last crops should be harvested from the earth so the soil may rest and be ready for the seeding in the spring. There are many practices from our ancestors that we continue today. At the death of the year, they honor the dead in their families. The veil is the thinnest between this world and the afterworld. The ancestors carved out turnips and squashes and put lit candles inside them and placed them on their front steps to guide the dead in their family to their home. They set their dinner table with a place for their dead ancestors to visit and eat with them. Today, on Halloween, we carve pumpkins and put candles in them and put them on our front steps. Children ask for treats from the houses they visit as the ancestors offered dinner to their dead families. Ghosts and skeletons are a common decoration as the ancestors beyond the veil might be. Also note that the Catholic Church, all Christian church, they celebrate All Saints and All Souls Day at this time. And in Mexico, it's the honoring the Day of the Dead. We hold a Samhain ritual honoring the four elements: air, water, earth, and fire, thanking them for supporting our lives and the planet, and celebrating the ancestors who have gone before us. These celebrations of the solar and agricultural gifts of the universe came to us from Celtic Western Europe and Ireland. There is archaeological provenance that the origin population of North America, the Native Americans who inhabited this continent for thousands of years before Europeans arrived, celebrated and built their settlements around the same solar, lunar, and agricultural gifts of the universe. We celebrate with these rituals on the very land where it happened centuries ago. Students, high school, and children may leave now, carefully.
please join us in singing from the Teal Hymnal, page 1069. As you are able, please rise. We will hear this played once by Dr. Jasmine Lee, and then we will repeat it 3 times, Ancient Mother.
Each Sunday, we give and receive an offering to support the promise and the practice of our faith. The offering is a visible symbol of our commitment and our covenant to our faith, to our religious community, to each other, and to our world. Our offering reminds us that our congregation belongs to all of us, to each of us individually, as well as all of us as a whole. It is a weekly embodiment of the idea that a group working together for justice and love is more exponentially powerful than any one individual. Our Share the Plate offering this morning will help support Shepherd's Table, a ministry that has been an important part of this church for decades. For decades, people have been gathering and collecting food, chopping it up, and delivering it to Shepherd's Table from Cedar Lane. The mission of Shepherd's Table is to improve quality of life and create pathways towards self-sufficiency and inspire hope for the most vulnerable, those experiencing food insecurity, homelessness, poverty. All are welcome at Shepherd's Table for meals and access to social services provided with compassion and respect. You can give by the electronic means of our modern times, text, online giving, PayPal, QR code, or by simply mailing a check to the church. If you're here in person, we also invite you to use our offering bowl in the back of the sanctuary. Thank you for your generosity. Our offering to sustain the mission and ministry of Cedar Lane will now be gratefully given and received.
At the dawning of the day and the setting of the sun, we remember you. As we break bread at the table after all our work is done, we remember you. When a sister is hurting, needs a helping hand, when a brother needs a caring friend to understand, when the going gets rough and we're trying to see things through, we remember you. We remember you. We remember. When the crocus is in bloom and we have joys to share, we remember you. When the darkness strikes so hard, it's more than we can bear, we remember you. As we wake up with the sunrise, greet the brand new day, may we ever keep in mind your quiet wisdom and the way you humbly walk the talk, staying faithful and true. We remember you. Your dying leaves a gaping hole deep within our aching soul. Some days I wander around without a clue. I don't claim to understand, I don't see it as God's plan, how lightning sometimes strikes out of the blue. Through the foggy haze and the crashing storms of night, we remember you. Sowing seeds in springtime when the sky is glistening bright, we remember you. May the grandeur of the star fields always take my breath away. Like you on the potter's wheel, may I let myself be clay, being born and dying from the old into the new. We remember you. Still trusting in the one who is making all things new. We remember you. We remember you. We remember you. We remember you. We remember you.
We remember you. It's what community does. Being human means living side by side with the reality that while we are alive, we are ever in a dance with death, because death does come for us all. What happens after death, we remain unsure of. But something else we have in common is that each of us knows what it means to grieve someone that we've lost. We know what it is to be left behind. In a Psychology Today article, Dr. Rodney Luster, PhD, states, according to research by Hagman, remembering is a primary way for our relationships to be sustained once a loved one dies. Memorializing our loved ones during the holidays can galvanize our relationships and move us to creativity and commitment around the things in our own life. He goes on to say, as stated by Buck and Roz, There is an impact we experience with the death of a loved one, but the distinction of remembering those past is also a fundamental component of human life. We need our rituals. We need to remember our loved ones. We need to tell stories and make meaning. This is indeed a fundamental component of human life: body, mind, spirit. Those of us gathered here and online may have different understandings of death and the afterlife. Today's invitation is to engage with the message and the promise that Samhain offers, the knowing that our dead are not really gone. They live on beside us, within us, and around us all the time. This can help us in our grieving and our remembering. I know that for some of us, we grew up knowing this in our bones, and for others, we may struggle to connect with the possibility of the message that this holiday and similar holidays represent. Poet Shulon Harkin, in the book Susceptible to Light, shares some thoughts that may be helpful if you're struggling with this belief. Harkin says, "The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky, out of reach, pulling the divinity from every leaf, sifting out the holy from our bones, insisting God isn't bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see as ordinary, stripping the sacred from everywhere to put in a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from your heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, make it sit up straight and cross its legs, removed it of rejoicing, wiped clean of its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yowl, its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend God isn't the easiest thing in this universe, available to every soul in every breath." I invite us to take a holy breath together. Remembering that the easiest thing in the universe is available to every soul in every breath. This idea of separateness from the great mysteries, including the afterlife, is just that, an idea. And for today, may that idea drift away with the wind created by our breath. So let us breathe together in this moment of possibility. And as we breathe, let us allow the veil of our hearts and minds to thin this day as our spirits fly. And as we call the memories of the love we have shared with our departed loved ones to rise in this breath and the next. As we breathe together the possibility of this moment, please allow these words of Aaron Freeman, who offers another point of connection to the message of Samhain. Allow them to wash through you. Freeman wrote, "You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy so they will understand that your energy has not died. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy gets created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your mother to know that all of your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was her beloved child remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Let them know that they can measure, that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the law of conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. As we continue to breathe together, let us lean into wonder. The ancients were right. Science gives us the question, what if the essence of our less orderly, departed ones are still in the air we breathe, maybe coalescing from time to time beside us when the veil is thin? And maybe science just hasn't quite proven yet that the sentience of our loved ones does remain in some less organized way. And at times like today, when the veil is thin, or when we have great need, or when that graduation is happening, or that wedding, or that birth, or that pivotal moment, that those particles and molecules coalesce and our loved ones can both hear us and witness and receive messages and send messages in return. Maybe the messages they send show up through the scent of their cologne or their perfume showing up in a room randomly. Perhaps we hear their favorite song on the radio, see their favorite flower. Maybe they show up in a dream, or that communication is a bird tapping at your window, or some other form. For me, I grew up with this understanding that my ancestors were always with me, sending me messages, receiving messages, waiting for me to call them, to call on them, to connect with them. And it was my job to tell their stories, to know their stories, and to remember them. In every home in my family, we have a wall where we remember our ancestors and also where we honor those who are beside us in this life. And I could not wait. I would go from home to home at each of my family's houses, and I would dream about my family wall, the day that I would get to have a home where I could hang those pictures and tell those stories to anyone who would visit. We grew up talking to our ancestors regularly and praying for their assistance. One of the people the flowers are dedicated to today is my Grandma Katie, who I am named after. And I share a bit of her story with you today. She was a woman of deep faith. And anyone who I met when I was a child would tell me they were her best friend. So I figured she was pretty fabulous to have so many best friends. And my Grandma Katie, she made a hard choice. The doctors had told her she shouldn't have any more children, but she didn't want my tia Andita to be alone. And so she became pregnant with my mother. And mere hours after my mother was born, she passed. And my mother, who was born at Columbia Hospital in New York, was born with a cleft palate. She was the first baby that the surgery that's used today, now done as laser, back then it certainly wasn't, but she was the first baby that surgery was performed on. It just so happened that the doctor that was researching that surgery was waiting for a baby who would need that surgery. And I cannot help but think of my mother's story tied with Grandma Katie's. And I remember my tia Rosita, who we often call on when someone is sick. She was a woman of deep faith. And my mom keeps this blanket that she crocheted by hand, and she'll wrap herself up in it. And when someone's in the hospital, we call her forward to provide assistance and healing and support. Storytelling about our lost loved ones is an important part of my family structure, and it's important in many Latinx and other cultures, though it's expressed differently in different rituals of remembering. If you happen to see the movie Coco, which you should see if you have not yet, Coco centers the themes that I'm talking about, but they do it in the context of Dia de los Muertos, which is a holiday being celebrated by many Mexican families today. And you'll notice when you watch Coco that it's made very crystal clear how culturally important it is to keep the memories of one's loved ones alive, lest they disappear forever. The Reverend Tania Marquez recently wrote a prayer and reflection centering her spiritual roots, which live in her Mexican culture. She states, "Every year around this time, there is a distinctive smell in the air, and the trees sway like the whisper of 1,000 voices. That is how I know they are coming." At that point, the perpetual altar in my heart begins taking place outside of me for a few days, and then it dances with a joy at the thought of their coming. The stub of a lit taper candle burns brightly on a bed of cempasúchil, or Mexican marigolds. First, the table that will be the altar, a few boxes on top to create different levels. I begin to think about the pictures I'm adding to my altar today. The beloved friend who didn't get to say goodbye, the one I loved, my grandparents, the cousin who left too soon. I allow myself to think about the ones whose pictures won't be on my altar, but that I still remember. The fragrance of the marigolds fills the air. Grandfather, sun made flower, a ray of light guiding them back, calling them home. It is a long way here. It is good to have some food and drinks ready so they may quench their thirst, so they may eat and gain strength for the way back. I love adding chocolate and drinking chocolate caliente. I imagine the moment of communion that transcends the world of the living. Once the altar is ready, I behold the sight of this place of encounter. They will come and will know they are missed. All the times we spent together, all the memories come rushing to us. Our elders told us to remember is to live again. And that's what we do when we allow ourselves to be surrounded by their presence and the stories of times spent together. My family and I gather, we tell stories, we laugh, we also cry a little, we rejoice in their company. Their stories come alive in our telling, and so does the love we still feel. I've learned to listen more often to things than to beings, to listen to my heart that knows a different way of knowing. My heart knows that the dead aren't really dead. Their stories are perpetually being told by the world around us, like trees swaying, like the whisper of 1,000 voices. I ask you, will you open your hearts today to the whisper of 1,000 voices, or to the possibility that your loved ones can hear you today and always? Or maybe you can hold simply that when we remember our loved ones and tell their stories, we deepen our relationships with both the living and the dead. Reverend Marquez closes her reflection with this prayer. Boundless Spirit, open our minds, our hearts, and all of our senses to a different way of knowing. The knowing of the heart that recognizes love transcendent, love everlasting, love that never dies.
Remember me.
We've all lost someone dear to us.
Though I have to say
so many of our loved ones have been lost to COVID, and many more over the years of our lives to causes that are natural and unnatural, tragic, sudden, sometimes slow. We move into this time of remembering and witnessing together the love we have shared with our departed loved ones and the loss as well. And in this time of remembrance, I invite you to hold the Reverend Marquez's prayer close, because love transcends. In just a moment, UU musician Francisco Ruiz will share a song of remembrance. Those who are here in person are invited during the video to come forward to light a candle, beginning at the center of each platter and then moving towards the edges. And if you're at home, please light a candle at home or put a name in the chat, and a candle will be lit for you here. And as you light each candle, hold the memories of your loved ones and send them the messages of your heart. As the flame rises, know that the veil is at its thinnest, and your love, your messages are heard and felt. Queridos antepasados, les pedimos que estén presentes hoy, que escuches los mensajes de amor en nuestros corazones para ti. Beloved ancestors, we call you to be present today to hear our messages of love. You may now rise in body or spirit, in silence or memory, as messages are sent and received by our loved ones across the veil.
Remember me, though I have to say goodbye. Remember me, don't let it make you cry. For even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again. Remember me. Que esta canción deje de latir, solo con tu amor yo puedo existir. Que nuestra canción no deje de latir, solo con tu amor yo puedo existir. Recuérdame, si en tu mente vivo estoy. Recuérdame, mis sueños yo te doy. Te llevo en mi corazón y te acompañaré. Unidos en nuestra canción, contigo ahí estaré. Recuérdame, si sola crees estar. Recuérdame, y mi cantar te irá a abrazar. Aún en la distancia nunca vayas a olvidar que yo contigo siempre voy. Recuérdame. Close your eyes and let the music play. Keep our love alive, will never fade away. If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep your love alive, will never fade away. If you close your eyes and let the music play, keep our love alive, will never fade away. Remember me, for I will soon be gone. Remember me, and let the love we have live on. And know that I'm with you the only way that I can be. So until you're in my arms again, remember me. Que nuestra canción no deje de latir, solo con tu amor yo puedo existir. Que nuestra canción no deje de latir, solo con tu amor yo puedo existir.
let us remain open to the holy in every day. Let us remember that all of the wonders of the universe, as well as our loved ones, are with us in each breath. Let us remember our loved ones with story, song, and shared memories. Most of all, let us remember that we are never alone. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you now to rise in body and or spirit as we sing together hymn number 1039 in honor of our loved ones whose whispers we hear and whose presence we welcome in our lives now and always.
The circle of earth. The way is fertile for spirit's rebirth.
I release the circle of water, the circle of might. The way is ready. Spirits, take flight.
I release the circle of song, the circle of fire. The way is opened by a cleansing pyre.
I release the circle of change, the circle of air. The way is new, but the magic is there.
I release the circle of the ancients, the circle of light. We thank Pan of the Summerlands for their continued care for the beloved dead. The way is closed this holy night. The circle open but unbroken. May the peace of the goddess go in our hearts. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again.
Blessed be.